Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Planet X News. This is Scott from the Nibiru channel. August 31st, 2017. I'm here this early evening with our Planet X physicist, Dr. Claudia Albers. Doctor, how are you this early evening?
I'm very well. Thank you, Scott. And how are you?
I'm not doing too bad. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, reading a lot of headlines coming up right now on all the devastation that has occurred in Houston and the surrounding communities. And now this devastation is going to be heading up towards Louisiana and many, many other states. And, you know, the reason why I wanted to jump on here, I wanted to have a live stream with the doctor. You know, this is her first couple of months in the United States of America. And I've been through these disasters before. You know, as I mentioned, I went through Hurricane Andrew, and that was pretty devastating. And it did, as a young man at the time, it did wear me down psychologically, seeing the devastation. And one thing that did catch my eye was the price of gasoline and the price gouging, and the opportunists that were out there just taking advantage of people. It is bad enough that what has occurred in Houston and the surrounding communities, and now, you know, moving into Louisiana and possible many, many other states. And then now we have another massive storm bearing down on the east coast of the United States in tropical storm, soon to be Category 5 Hurricane Irma. And I was reading a lot of these reports pertaining to this price gouging. You know, folks, it's a time for people to come together and definitely help each other out, not take advantage of people that are in desperate need. And, you know, the doctor being in this country for the first 2 months, you know, she's seen quite a lot. She's been through quite a bit. And then now for her to see this, you know, the devastation of the hurricane, which we really haven't even seen that much. But doctor, how do you feel? How do you feel about your first 2 months here and with seeing this devastation now in this country?
Well, Scott, this is very sad to see the kind of devastation that I have seen. I never even imagined that it was possible. And I see it as an attack on these people, forced out of their homes, flooded out. And I've just written an article where what I saw was an attack, like another country attacking the United States and its people. And, you know, this is the way I see it. I have seen disasters and flooding happening in South Africa. And what usually happens is people from other cities get together and do send relief to those areas. And sometimes they get overwhelming response. And I'm hoping that the same, of course, will happen here, that people from other cities will get together and send relief to those who are in trouble. And to see these price hikes and so on, it's a little strange to me.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It is definitely very strange for somebody new to this country. You know, supposedly the land of the free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it kind of touches home, and it's kind of bringing back memories of that time in South Florida. You know, and I was a young guy. You know, I was a young guy during the Hurricane Andrew storm, and then later on seeing Katrina and many other hurricane disasters along the coasts of the United States. But yes, it does really touch me now even more to see what's occurring down there. And folks, listen, both The doctor and I, after examining a lot of what has occurred as far as the Hurricane Harvey itself, we're still leaning towards weaponized weather, but we're really not going to get into the whole weaponized weather conspiracy, and because that's a whole nother ball game right there. But after seeing all of these people just in total shambles, other things are starting to hit home with me. More thinking. Many, many years ago, I used to dabble in the stock market, specifically the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ 100, fantastic mutual fund at the time. Made a lot of money on tech stocks, things of that nature, blah, blah, blah. Let's talk about oil and gas. I mean, oil and gas is what keeps this country running. It also makes people millions and billions of dollars. Gasoline, oil. Well, a very large portion of our gasoline refineries, the oil refineries that actually make gasoline, well, they're all located in Houston. Fourth largest city in this country. Now, all of a sudden, all of the refineries have to shut down. Gasoline runs this country. No doubt about it. We have a few reports. I've been looking at some different things. All of a sudden, a couple of days ago, I see this big dumping of stocks. Now, folks, you think that people would invest in the gas market, the oil market, with situations like this. The need's going to go up. So therefore, you could make some money by buying into the stocks. But big players, big players in the stock market immediately dumped their stocks. They dumped them. And, me being a past investor, I would see red lights, bells and whistles, alarms flashing when you see these big investors dumping these stocks like this in a time of need. What a way to manipulate the market even more. And it's very, very concerning. If you break it down, folks, a rise in the cost of gas is going to make its way all the way to your dining room table, to your refrigerator, your grocery bill. Because, folks, the bottom line is, once the price of gas goes up, well, the delivery cost for all of the items, anything that you use and you buy in stores that is trucked across this country in every direction, those fuel costs go up. And everything gets passed right on down to the consumer, making your life even harder, more miserable. But there are stories coming out of Texas. $99 some idiot was charging for a case of water. I've seen stories, people selling a bottle of water for $8.50. One gas station selling gasoline, $20 a gallon. Just ripping and tearing into the hearts of people that have already been devastated. Doctor, whenever you think of something like that, and I know that you're you're a very, very good person.
Mm-hmm.
And you are truly a woman of God. And what would you think about these types of situations?
Well, thank you, Scott. I believe that stealing from people, it's horrible that people have no compassion for others, and or rather taking advantage. And I think it's terrible that human beings do this kind of thing to their own brothers and sisters. I think it's important that we are able to place ourselves in other people's shoes and see ourselves as the one in need. Maybe then we will be able to better help our brothers and sisters. And obviously these people are not doing that. So to me, it's very sad that this is happening. It's very sad indeed.
Yes, folks, that was an 8-ounce Red Bull that you just heard opening over the microphone.
And I've always heard that this was a Christian country, and that things are based on Christian values. So this contradicts that fact, I must say.
Well, absolutely. Money is pure greed. If you take a verse from the character on the movie Wall Street, Gordon Gekko, greed is good. That part of the movie just really, really got me, because in all actuality, folks, greed has never been good. It never will be good. And greed just drives the monster. It drives evil. But what I'm really, really seeing, besides the price gouging and the stock market and people dumping stocks and billionaires becoming trillionaires, and people like, the Rothschilds and all of these big wigs that have all of these billions of dollars. You know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people that really run the world. Whenever they start removing their money from the banks and they start shutting things down, and all of a sudden, all of these natural, as they say, acts of God are occurring, these huge catastrophes, you have to start to think and lay this thing out the right way. You start to analyze everything that's going on. And what a better way to cripple a nation would be, naturally you start with some pretty big disasters, displacing millions and millions of people without raising an eyebrow. As far as a conspiracy goes, let's not do that. So we've accomplished, and I'm speaking from their point of view. So I'm in their, let's just say I'm in their war room, and this is the discussion that they're having. Okay, so we have basically crippled almost half of a state. We've displaced millions of people. We have shut down the electricity. Nobody can use debit cards. We've created the price gouging scenario. We're taking advantage of these people. Ladies and gentlemen, there's reports coming out that 80% of the people affected by this storm had absolutely no flood insurance. Now, I know from my past that insurance companies took a bath on Hurricane Andrew. We all know that insurance companies took a bath on Katrina. But isn't it awful funny now how 80% of these people don't have flood insurance? So these insurance companies, there'll be some claims, I'm sure, but they're not going to take a bath. Big business. So all of these people are displaced. Homes are destroyed. Businesses are destroyed. Roads are impassable. Neighborhoods 4-5 feet underwater. We have a very serious situation moving up the Mississippi River right now. As soon as this storm tracks out of Louisiana and displaces all of those people, you're going to start to see many, many people being displaced up and along the Mississippi River, and then into the Ohio Valley, and then right up into the Northeast. I mean, this Hurricane Harvey storm, it's coming my way. If any of you saw my reports from early this morning, I've got a lot of weather experience. I've been watching it for more than 25 years. I can see that something's seriously wrong, folks. I can clearly see that, things are kind of being laid out. And once again, a year ago, I was told specifically some of the things to watch out for. And when you see these things occurring, you better start paying attention. The natural disasters, that's been occurring. Now it's starting to hit into this country, the United States of America. So let's move back again. So we have a natural catastrophe, as they call it, big hurricane. It just sat there, it spun, it dumped tons and tons of water, catastrophic, loads of water, boggling the minds of meteorologists everywhere, boggling the minds of reporters that have reported on hurricane disasters before in their careers. So we got all the people displaced. We flooded out their land. We destroyed all of their businesses, all of their homes. We busted them down psychologically also. Some people have lost their lives. Even, some children have lost their lives in this tragedy. So we've taken away the electricity, no gas service. That's all shut down. Now the oil refineries, well, they have to shut down. They cannot afford a disaster. Okay, so we have all of that going on. Now I hear reports about health conditions. E. coli. All of this bacteria in the water already. Serious situations arising with sewage systems now leaking into all of this laying water. And then I catch a report early this morning talking about soaring heat temperatures. Wow, what a better way to break people down even more. And then I heard another report about, the dangers of what is occurring there. And, the reason why I'm chuckling here, folks, is, they're talking about alligators. A lot of people don't know. Yeah, Texas got some gators. These animals are displaced now. People rescuing animals, pets, and also wild animals. I saw a few people rescuing small bats that were caught up in the water, loads of them, and they were capturing them in a net, leaning over, and while the bats were trying to cling on for dear life. Saw one person rescuing a German Shepherd, a pet of someone's. There was one report of a large hawk that was out stuck in the rain, and somehow it ended up in the back of a taxi cab, scared to death, sitting there. The pictures are all over the internet. But do you see what I'm trying to show you? This seems like a huge pattern. Everything coming together just a little too damn smooth, if you ask me. Mm-hmm. But it seems like a staged, systematic event. And it all seems to be converging on half of the United States, from Texas to the East Coast. The East Coast is next. Okay, now there are a lot of people that live in the state of Texas. There are a lot of people that live in that exact vicinity where the storm came in. But when you start talking about the northeast part of the United States, now you're talking about millions and millions and millions and millions of people that will be affected immediately, cutting off everything going to the East Coast. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see gasoline prices soar through the freaking roof. The governments may tell you that they're going to be stepping in there to reassure that this doesn't happen. Folks, this is what they said during Hurricane Andrew. It didn't happen. That's what they told everybody during Katrina. That never happened. Now I'm really starting to see what is actually occurring. More and more of these natural disasters being moved in to cripple half of a nation. And it's going to happen pretty quick. If you watched any of my reports on this Hurricane Irma, you can clearly see what's now happening. And folks, I'm telling you right now, that Hurricane Irma, if it comes into shore, a Category 5 hurricane into the east coast of the United States, and it moves far inland and catches all of a sudden a pretty good gust of wind, you know, the steering currents of the storm, therefore bringing it, boom, right over New York City. That would be catastrophic. More displacement of millions of people. Millions. More National Guard on the streets. More FEMA personnel on the streets. You know, folks, people that are going to be heading towards FEMA for help down there in the Houston, Texas area and Louisiana and probably many other states coming up here real quick, you know, they're going to want to vaccinate you. They're going to want to stick a needle in your arm and they're going to tell you, hey, listen, you know, you need this. You know, this is life threatening. We got to give you this shot. Folks, don't you see what is happening? I could smell it. The banks are just all jacked up. Financial institutions ready to close their doors. Prices of gasoline about to soar through the roof. Soon to follow, food prices. Now, another disaster looming in the Atlantic Ocean as we speak. If that hurricane comes on shore and makes its way up the East Coast, it's going to be devastating. Now, as far as what I see, it's not a real big rainmaker, but it's a wind maker. You know, I was looking at internal winds of, you know, anywhere from 130 to 155 miles per hour. Now, that's enough to just destroy anything. And if it makes its way through those states, and there are a lot of big cities that would be affected. And the infrastructure of the East Coast is it's old. You know, folks, something that I heard the other day is people are now starting to think a little bit, oh, you know, well, you know, why hasn't the United States really worked on the infrastructure, especially the East Coast? You know, the 13 original colonies of this country. what are they doing with all this money? They're cutting programs, they're cutting benefits, they're cutting everything, but they're charging you more. And they're making more. Hey, listen, this isn't a joke. Have any of you ever seen or heard of a poor politician? Hey, Doc, listen. Heads up here. Tell them how corrupt the government is in South Africa.
Well, it is well known that they are completely corrupt, that they will, for a price, do anything you want. So that's the level of corruption we expect to have with black governments in Africa.
She meant black ops. She meant black ops. Black op governments.
Yeah, well, in South Africa, it's not a bad word to say a black government. We just say, well, it's black people in the government. But to the whites, it usually means that they are corrupt. We do know that a lot of governments in the world are corrupt to a certain degree, but it's well known that the African governments are even more corrupt.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you,
and openly so.
Oh yeah, them a couple of them countries down there, boy. I'll tell you what, they're dangerous. The Congo, Zimbabwe, all those countries, boy. They got all of those computer scams and the pirates on the ocean, and yeah, it's pretty bad situation in on that whole continent, if you ask me. Between oil and diamonds.
Yeah, Scott, and I didn't mean to say it in as a racial slur, because I have in South Africa lots of people who are black and are my friends, and they believe the same way as I do about the government, that it is corrupt. So it's not about a black-white thing; it's about the actual government. And
well, Doc, let me interrupt you real quick. And yeah. I mean, I'm just going to speak the truth right here. I mean, it's always been a black-white thing in Africa, the whole continent. Ever since the white man came in there, just started, stealing the land.
Yeah,
it was basically what occurred many, many moons ago, creating these colonies and just stealing the land. We've seen it in this country with the American Indians. So we know what governments do. But folks, my point here is there is just a lot of really fishy things. These things just stink. The doctor and I, we investigate what's going on with Planet X, Nibiru, whatever you want to call it, the things lurking in our inner solar system. And, I'm going to be quite honest with you, the more and more I search and I dig, the more and more we find, and the more and more we are harassed for what we do. And, we have been investigating a lot of things with the weather. The doctor has been in depth in research for the last several days. And she's come across a whole lot of information that's, if we start spilling the beans on all of this, it's going to create all kinds of, additional problems for us. But, we've been talking about it and we don't care. So at a later date, we're going to start talking about this. And that later date's going to be coming very, very soon. But what we're seeing here, folks, is the crippling of a nation. At least half of it. And, I don't want to get into the whole HAARP situation and the whole HAARP weather conspiracy, because we already know it exists. Governments have been manipulating the weather. I think it goes back as far as the 50s. I first heard about it reading different stories about the Vietnam War. But I truly believe that what you're seeing here is the beginnings of a huge setup. And this is exactly how it was explained to me over a year ago on how some of these occurrences, they're going to be laid out. Very well organized. Folks, look at all of the drills, the FEMA drills that have been conducted all around this country. You know, you had that big one there in New York, that, what was that called? The Gotham Shield. Jade Helm, UX-16. I mean, these operations they've been going on everywhere. Folks, they're very well prepared to take this nation down and take this nation down to its knees. And they're going to do it very quickly. This is not going to be a slow bleed. They're going to come in there, they're going to move in, and they're going to hurt it, man. They're going to hurt the situation quick. Now, psychologically, these people that have, you know, they've just been devastated by this hurricane. People have lost everything. You hurt somebody physically, that heals. But man, when you hurt somebody psychologically, you take their mind away from them, that cripples them. And I remember back in Hurricane Andrew, going back into our neighborhoods, and I lived on the intercoastal waterway. I mean, I lived about 300 yards away from the ocean. We were very, very lucky because at the last few hours, that hurricane took a jog to the south and crippled the city of Miami, Kendall, Coral Spring, or Coral Gables, Homestead, just crushed everything. And things are flat down there, so there was a lot of flooding. All of the canals and, you know, the water rise was pretty bad. But not as bad as what I'm seeing here in the Houston, Texas area. You know, and understanding a good bit about weather, folks, I've never, ever, and I've tracked every single hurricane after Hurricane Andrew. I've never seen a hurricane make landfall, back up, sit there and spin, and then make that acute angled cut right into Louisiana. I've never seen that. I had one idiot, you know, email me, which was probably a troll, and tell me that, you know, I was absolutely crazy, that this phenomenon is, yeah, it's normal. Yeah. I've never seen it before, but we're starting to see some things that just don't make a lot of sense. The intensification of these storms and how fast they pop up. They almost pop up out of nowhere. And then the next thing you know, bingo, you have a big problem. The doctor's been doing a lot of research into this weaponized weather. And, you know, listen, folks, I'm going to tell you, there are a lot of people out there, very, very knowledgeable, very, very professional. And listen, they've been investigating this weather warfare for quite some time. We've actually been in touch with some of these people over the last couple of days. We're actually trying to arrange a few interviews so these folks can come on with us and explain to you what's occurring. But I'm gonna be truthful. You know, we may not catch that opportunity. Things may start to occur so rapidly that we might not have the time. You know, in order to do these live streams, you know, you have to have a computer. It has to have electricity. You start having these big power outages, folks, because of storms and the electrical infrastructure taken down. Woo, boy, people are going to lose their minds. So not only are you going to go through the weather catastrophes and then the rising fuel costs and the rising food costs, the dangers with illness, God only knows what they could be planting out there. Lord only knows what is in that needle that they want to vaccinate you with in case you are stuck in a FEMA camp for months. FEMA announced today that they're going to be in the Houston, Texas area and throughout Louisiana, not for weeks or months, but for years. What does that tell you, folks? So you took down the biggest state in this country that have some of the toughest people, some of the most hardest working people. Yeah, they just happen to like guns. So you took down all that, the big city of Houston, Texas. Pretty wise move. They always said that, you know, if you're going to make a move on the United States, before you think about crippling New York City, you might want to take a look at Texas. Because Texas is pretty tough, man. Pretty tough people. To me, ladies and gentlemen, it just seems like a very well sought out plan. Once again, more cover up, more conspiracy. It's never going to end. We've only bit into the first small pieces of this. Trust me when I tell you. Doctor, do you want to fill everybody in a little bit on the weather warfare? If you just if you just elaborate on that a little bit.
Yes, okay. I did look at it, and I started out by looking at what was happening with Harvey, and I saw that it was possibly controlled. And so I started to think about what were the methods that were being used to control it. And I know most people will talk about HAARP and so on. So someone directed me towards this website called Weather War 101. And I looked at it, and what they explain about it made a lot of sense to me. And one of the things that I first got into was the fact that pollution leads to no rain, basically. And pollution comes from the burning of fossil fuels. And as we know, fossil fuels have been burned for over 100 years. So this would lead to there being no rain in a lot of land masses on Earth, because what happens is the pollution are made out of very small particles. And these small particles create droplets of water that are too small to eventually grow to the size of a raindrop. So you would get clouds, but you would never get rain out of these clouds because of the pollution in the atmosphere. And what would happen then is most land masses would end up being desert regions. So, but this is all because of the burning of fossil fuels. And as we know, any technological innovation that would take us away from burning of fossil fuels is discouraged. Sometimes the inventors are killed. So that means that there is a power on Earth that discourages the move away from fossil fuels, and in fact is ready to kill in order to keep on with the technology being as it is. And of course, most cars that we have nowadays have internal combustion engines in them. And this technology is very old. It comes from the beginning of the 20th century. A lot of people have tried to innovate on that, and they just haven't been successful. So, you know, that shows that there is a conspiracy to keep on using fossil fuels, which is causing pollution, which leads to basically no rain. And yet we do have rain. But how is the rain formed? And that led me down the track where the rain that we have is actually artificially produced. So the way we produce power most of the time is through coal-burning power plants. And these power plants produce a lot of steam as well as the pollution through the burning of fossil fuels, because coal is a fossil fuel. So a lot of this water vapor is condensed and thrown up into the atmosphere, and it leads to the formation of clouds. So this is one of the ways that they mitigate the way that just having pollution would cause no rain, because now you have a whole lot of water vapor going into the atmosphere. But then they want to also direct these weather patterns and control them. And so what they have done is they use radar or microwave beams that are used to direct these clouds in a certain direction. And if they are compressed by these, what actually happens is these beams create acoustic waves in the atmosphere, because they cause the pulsation of air masses, and this causes acoustic waves. And then these acoustic waves can compress spinning weather patterns, and when they are compressed, they will spin faster, and that will make the storm more severe. So these beams can be used to do that, as well as steer the storms. And then the other thing they do in order to make them more steerable is they use nuclei. So nuclei are the little particles around which the droplets form. They're solid particles. And they use then metals like aluminum oxides from the chemtrails. And then these nuclei will then form drops, and which will then make the clouds made out of these drops steerable, or more easily steerable by the beams, the radar beams, and so on. So it's a whole system that is being used to produce rain. But it's not just producing rain anymore. It seems that these powerful people that are controlling the weather in this way and are obviously making money out of the use of fossil fuels are now actually making war on countries and peoples by steering and making these storms stronger than they would ever have to be, and destroying people's livelihoods, their lands, and killing people. And this is what I believe we are seeing happening in Texas. So I think this is a problem, and of course there is always a remedy. When we see the problem and the way they are doing it, it can be reversed. We can use the same beams to reverse, to instead of strengthening the storms, to dissipate them. And all this could be done by governments if they really wanted to, if they saw that their people were under attack, as I see this happening now to the people of Texas. So I would suggest that governments do something about it. They are obviously under attack. And I do understand that there is right now the need to produce rain. But also we have these objects close to the sun that are heating our planet from the bottom. and causing the problem even more severe, because as the temperature of the oceans increases, then it will become more difficult to have the correct weather patterns. And there will be even more of a tendency not to have rain and to have deserts form on land masses. So that may also cause the increased use of chemtrails. But chemtrails are not a long-term solution, because they are destroying the planet in many other ways, like destroying the ozone layer. And that will lead to the death of every organism on Earth, because UV radiation is, UVC radiation is not absorbed. And eventually every living organism on this planet would die. So obviously whatever these people are doing is only enriching themselves and basically destroying the planet and everything on it in the process. So that's basically what my research has led me to, Scott.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting research that you've been doing. And ladies and gentlemen, just like the doctor said, you know, they're able to create these storms. They are also able to knock them out, but they just choose not to. That makes absolutely no sense. Now, folks, real quick update. As I mentioned earlier in my report this morning, I was watching these models very carefully, but the information was cut off as far as the data. And I mentioned that they're going to be updating this very, very soon. And as you're looking at it right now, the prediction that I had of this hurricane moving into either South Carolina or North Carolina has now changed. And what you're looking at right now is Hurricane Irma. And I want you to watch very carefully where it's going to end up. And then once again, the data cuts off. This is not a good situation. There you go. Wow. I'm a little bit speechless right here.
Oh my goodness. It's heading for New York.
Yeah, I can't see the date. Hold on one second.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, that's still on the 9th. Just let me move this back a little bit. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to move the date back on this because I wasn't able to see the little calendar down in the corner, but I wanted to get some timing on this. And as you can see, all of the current paths were taking this directly into the Carolinas. Now things are changing once again with the wind streams, these steering currents, and as you can see, zoom in here real quick. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm going to go back to this. Folks, this is September 9th, what we were just watching. Someone had mentioned to me and sent me an email, and they said something about a hurricane impact on September 11th, of all dates.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're seeing it. Boy, that's bad. That's real bad because, ladies and gentlemen, remember I told you that the top sides of these hurricanes, this is the worst. And if this model is even close to being true, we're looking at some very serious catastrophic conditions for the states of New York, New Jersey, parts of Philadelphia, definitely parts of Boston and the Cape, Rhode Island, all of Manhattan, Staten Island, Long Island. And just let me catch some wind speeds here real quick. Well, those are over 100 miles an hour. 102 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour. So it seems that this storm is going to lose a little bit of intensity. But again, folks, these are just models. And by looking at this, that just doesn't even look good for the state of New York. You know, making the prediction earlier this morning on the information that I had coming in on some of these models and these wind currents, it was driving this storm directly into North and South Carolina. And then, as I mentioned, you know, I had to wait probably a good 12 hours before all of the updated information came in. And as you can see very clearly that the wind patterns, they have completely shifted. Completely. And it seems that this storm is just going to get sucked up right into New York.
Yes, this is very sad, Scott, that this is happening.
Now, once again, the model stops on the 9th, but you can see where it stops on September 9th. Yeah, this is not a good deal here. 105 mile an hour winds. And, you know, this is just a model. This is many, many days away. I'm sure that this is probably going to continue to update, you know, over the course of the next week. Wow. You know, this is all going to depend on if another current of air picks this up and just skirts it along. But that is a very sharp turn for a hurricane to make just to get off the coast and head out to the northern Atlantic. I just want to take a look at precipitation. This is only going to give me 3-hour totals as of right now. But we're looking at like 3 inches of rain. So it's about 1 inch per hour. Wow. I'm going to just get in here a little closer and I want to see some of the affected area. Wow. So this will definitely move into, well, I'm very familiar with Toms River, New Jersey. Just going to check these wind speeds here real quick. And so that's on the 9th. And by the 9th, they're already going to be getting battered. You can definitely say that water levels will start to go up. You could see the way that the water is going to be pushed. Yeah, all of these areas, New Haven, Bridgeport, Yonkers, New York City itself. And we don't know exactly where it's going to go from that point. You know, I mean, could it move directly into the coastline of New Jersey? Or could it move directly into New York? The eye of that hurricane moving directly in. Or can it just skirt the coast and we dodge a bullet? Well, folks, I'll tell you this much. You know, when it comes to weather, as they say, you know, it's always going to be unpredictable. But seeing this model now, and I'll go ahead and just run it again as for where we're at right now, And this is what I was looking at earlier this morning, and it had all of the telltale signs of bringing this storm directly into the Carolinas. Also, as I mentioned, all of these vortexes of air, everywhere. You see them all over the place now. They are everywhere. You can see how these wind currents are going to pull this right up now. Now, this has all changed. Over the course of the last 12 hours since I did that report earlier this morning, again, all of this has changed. Now, right now, you have the storm sitting down here, and we'll go ahead and pull up precipitation levels so we can see it a little more clearly. And this is on September 2nd, going into September 3rd. And this is what they were looking at earlier, this stream of air, the wind, the steering currents right here. And that would probably keep this hurricane down below, but then it would probably drive it right into the southern coast of Florida, South Florida. But as we could see this model progress, I guess we're going to see this storm get picked up by another current, and it's going to take it directly into what looks to be New York. Sorry about the interruption, folks. I think it just updated itself. So we're going to get one more, quick look at this. And, I'm going to back out here because you can already see there is already a whole bunch of wicked weather before this storm even hits. I mean, that would just soften people up pretty good if you had some catastrophic rainstorms days before this storm. Now, you can see the sharp turn right there. Yeah, folks, I'm telling you right now, that does not look good at all. I mean, we just got done talking about, heavily populated areas, bigger cities, where things would just be devastating. Everything down in Houston, fourth largest city in this country. And now the path of this hurricane moves off from the Carolinas, and from this model, looks like it's making a beeline straight for the New York area. Wow.
Sure.
Yeah, how things change so very, very rapidly. Yeah, there's a lot of big cities right there. You have Boston up there towards the north. You got New York City, Philadelphia, New Jersey. Folks, a lot of big airports. There won't be any flights leaving out of here if this goes down. A lot of ports of call also. These are main shipping hubs. New York, Philadelphia, for products going all the way across the United States to the West Coast. Oh, brother. Yeah. You see how fast that changed, huh, Doctor?
Yes, indeed, Scott.
Yeah, we went from the Carolinas impacting around Wilmington to now almost a direct hit into New York.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, listen, folks, we're going to go ahead and end our live stream right now, but we wanted to bring you this information about, what's occurring down there in Texas and probably soon to be Louisiana. And, it just seems that the weather systems are going to get worse as this time goes on. And I'm just going to go ahead and let this model run real quick. And you can pay attention to what's going to be occurring right here all through this section of the United States. Furthermore, you're going to see more storm systems erupting down here in the southern Gulf. And other models I was looking at was bringing even more rain into the Houston and Louisiana areas. But you could see there are some pretty bad storms that are going to occur up here in the Northeast around New York, New Jersey, prior to this hurricane even getting anywhere near them. So you're going to see some days down here in Houston where they're going to get a little bit of rain, also in Louisiana. But you can see things start popping. Where? Right over Houston. Where? Right over Louisiana. And you can see these storms are going to start blowing up before that hurricane even gets anywhere near the coast. That looks like some really heavy activity moving into New York. And that is on or about between the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th of September. Wow, that looks pretty devastating. I hope this computer model is completely wrong. But anyways, listen, Doctor, any last words for everybody?
Yes, well, thank you, Scott. Well, I'd like to remind people that our true enemy is a certain archangel by the name of Lucifer. And him and his fallen angels are the ones that are behind these attacks. And but we have a creator, and we should get to know our creator is our only hope for our continued lives on this planet. And we should get to know him, seek him, because he is the only way that we'll ever find peace and safety. So yeah, that's what I would like to say.
Well, you said it very, very well, Doctor, as always. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, real quick heads up. Be very, very careful to donating money to online schemes and scams for, trying to help people out in Houston and these surrounding areas. My best information to give to you is to deal directly with the American Red Cross. If you are going to donate clothing or any types of items, or even financial donations or food or water, whatever it may be, immediately try to find the closest American Red Cross chapter and deal directly with them, folks. Okay, because they're going to be on the ground. They're going to be helping and working directly with these people from FEMA. I can't even stand to use their name, FEMA. But my mother did a lot of work for the American Red Cross here in my local area. She was actually employed by the American Red Cross as a psychologist. And great organization, folks. And they would be the ones that, if you want to make a donation, I would go directly to them. Be very leery of these people setting up GoFundMe accounts and things of that nature. You just don't even want to take part in that. Go directly to the American Red Cross. I had a bunch of friends emailing me today and inboxing me and asking me, how can they get clothing and donations and things like that down to those people. Deal with the American Red Cross. It's not a government organization. They're fantastic people, and they're going to be helping a lot of people down there. So if you want to do something good and straight from your heart, that would be my recommendation and the direction that you should go. Also, ladies and gentlemen, for any of you that live in any of these areas where, we don't even know what's going to happen from one day to another. Again, as I was looking at those models this morning, and again, they're just models, they change. I thought to myself, oh my God, these people, in Wilmington and Wilmington, North Carolina, South Carolina, man, they're going to get hit again. And just seeing the intensity of that storm, oh my goodness, a Category 5 impacting that area of the Carolinas would be devastating. But now, seeing the update on this one model, taking it almost right smack dab into New York City. That really has me wondering. It also has me very worried. I have friends and I have family that live in the Jersey area. I'm going to have to be getting on the telephone here after this live stream. I could definitely see that. Folks, pay very close attention to the information that is coming out. The YouTube channels that you follow, there's several really good channels out there to follow for this type of weather updated information. And try to take in as much as you can, especially if you live anywhere along this eastern seaboard, anywhere east of the Mississippi River, folks. Keep your eyes and your ears open. We're never going to know when something is drastically going to change, but some of the things that are going to change is the price of your gasoline, the price of your food, transportation. Everything's going to start to skyrocket, folks. If these storm systems keep on coming and they keep creating this devastation, things are going to get really out of hand really quick. Please be on guard, be safe, use your head, and keep paying very close attention to everything that is going on. This is Scott from Planet X News and the Nibiru channel with our Planet X physicist, Dr. Claudia Albers. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. Take care and be safe.